Hello, my name is Katrinas and I hope you're well. Today I want to show you the VC Mini with the SY-1000 and well, to help some new customers, but also you, we're going to start with a completely new out-of-the-box VC Mini and set everything up today. So let's have a look, closer look. I brought my guitar because I'm going to do some playing as well, but that's later on. First of all, we need to make some settings on the Boss SY-1000, and we're going to have a look. We're going to have to set up the MIDI system, so I'm going to press the system button and go to MIDI and then press MIDI settings. Okay, right here the first setting is important. This is the channel. It should be set to channel 7, Omni mode is off, RX transmit channel should be RX, no MIDI through, that should be switched off. The device ID doesn't matter. Okay, I've actually got the clock out on, PC out on, and I've got a fixed PC and CC map over here. Okay, next page. This is important as well. We are going to use the buttons of the SY-1000 to control the VC Mini. So it actually has to send out some MIDI messages, and it's actually quite simple. The num CC, that's the CC number that the first switch will send, is CC number 1, then CC number 2, 3, 4. So here you read 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can just set them by pressing 5, 6 for bank up and down, and then on the third page, CC7 for control 1 and CC8 for control 2. These are the main MIDI settings that we need, and once you've done that and you exit out of it, you should be able to use the switches on the unit. So if I press the middle one, I'm actually able to press here, and right here is an example of the V controller controlling the LEDs and the switches of the SY-1000, because I've added some stuff and I'll try to explain that later, but this is the actual scene mode. Okay, first of all, let's focus a bit on the VC Mini, and to do this I'm going to open VC Edit. This is the editor, and in the editor I have the option to remote control, and this just gives a larger view of the small screen. So everything you see on the screen you see over here. Okay. There are 3 main pages that are visible, and a page is actually well, just functions attached to buttons. That's on a page, and you can select pages. Okay, there are 2 encoder buttons on the VC Mini, and if I press the encoder switch on the right, you can see I'm switching between patch bank, assign bank, and something that's called mode select. Let's first have a look at patch bank. Right here I can change patches on the VC Mini, and if I press here you can see the SY-1000 responding, and if I'm playing on my guitar you can actually hear the sound responding as well. But I have 3 buttons. How can I get to the next bank? Well, the trick here is to press 2 switches. If I press switch 2 and 3 at the same time, and I'm seeing this out of, I press them at the same time, you can see I'm getting to the next bank. Also, you can see in the display the names, or the first 4 or 5 characters of the patch names is shown. So right now I can click patch number 1, and I should have crunch, shimmer, and this way I can actually bank up and down pretty quickly. I can do it from VC Edit as well by pressing the number key 1 and 2 at the same time. So you can just select any patch I want. Excellent, great stuff. Well, patch mode so far was pretty straightforward. We're gonna have a look at the next page. And if I move from patch mode to the assign bank page, right here I can change Control 2 and Control 1. See, the colors are different, they're not matching actually because I'm not reading out the data. Maybe I should get the SY-1000 colors to match with the V controller or vice versa. I don't know yet. I still don't get the logic of the colors. I think they're pretty random, the way that the SY-1000 assigns colors to switches. But anyway, if I press the switch here, you can see the switch responding on the VC MIDI, and the other way around it's working as well. And I can also control Control 3, and if I bank up by pressing 2 switches and going into the next one, Control 4, 5, 6 can all be controlled. Then I'll get to the bank up and down and num switches. And these are all assigns set to these. It can be that when you press the one that the VC MIDI will blink cannot control. I cannot control functions directly. I have to do it indirectly by reading what its function is and then executing that function. And for some functions I decided not, well, some things I just decided not to implement, like the basic control of these switches for patch selection. I think that's not necessary because we already have the switches on the unit and they are doing a great job. Some things are just not accessible through MIDI, so I can't control them. But most parameters that can be controlled, and they do make sense. So they have been implemented. Okay, let's go back to the main page because I was, and that is here. Here you read patch, scene, and menu. Okay, what is this? Well, let's have a look, and I'll switch screens back to the, so you can have a larger view of the SY-1000. Okay, here's the idea. When I press the middle button, all the switches of the SY-1000 are there to select scenes. You can actually see I'm doing that by looking at the VC MIDI. It'll say scene 1, 2, 3. And in the top corner, the name of the scene is displayed, but the scenes are empty so far. We still have to make scenes here. Okay, if I press the right button, I'm going into manual mode. And for some reason it's starting the tuner, which I'm not getting why it does that. Why are we going into tuner? I've never done that before. Try that again. Okay, may have pressed something wrong. Okay, it's always when I test everything's fine, and then when I try to make a video, some weird things are happening. If this is a bug, I'll try and fix it, but it's the first time this ever happened to me. Okay, manual mode is actually where you can operate whatever you set to manual mode. So it's something that's part of the SY-1000, and you can read the manual of the SY-1000 where manual mode is explained as well. Okay, and then there's the normal num mode, and also here you can set assigns. Now, one fun fact, once you are in manual mode and you press patch, I can now select a different patch, and automatically the V controller will jump back to manual mode. So I find this a very handy feature. It's the same for scene mode. When I'm in scene mode, I press patch mode, I select a different patch, and I'm back into scene mode. It's something that Boss products normally never do. This is switching back, but it just takes out one extra press, and I find it very handy. If you do want to browse patches, you can press patch twice, and now it'll stay in patch mode and not get out. So that's just a little trick that I find works really well, and it is by design. Okay. There is an alternative way to operate or to have you can get a different layout of switches, because right now when I'm over here you actually get 8 scenes, and what scenes are I'll explain later. There is an alternative mode, and for this I have to go into the menu. So if I press both buttons, and I'll actually change camera to VC Edit again, press both buttons and then press the encoder to get into menu mode. Right here I can edit whatever devices will do. So I'm going by turning the encoder into the device settings, and by default it knows, because it's been the latest device I've been editing, that I want to do something with the Boss SY-1000. If my device is not here, I can change by turning the right encoder. Okay, by default it will just detect, that's what normally when you connect a MIDI or the SY-1000, it'll the V control will just detect it. The MIDI channel is 7 right here as well. You can change this if you're already using MIDI channel 7 for something else, then you can change it on both ends. Okay, the MIDI port is USB MIDI. That's a bit unique because I've got a kind of weird connection going on here to have audio from the SY-1000 going into my Mac as well. But here you see page 1, page 2 and page 3. These are the default pages that you get when you press the right encoder like I did before. And here you can see here's mode select 1. If I change this one into mode select 2, and then I can exit by pressing the right encoder, here I'm actually getting into a new mode. And if I go here, you can see I'm having it here on the switches, and I'll change back to my drive cam. Right now here I have my scenes, and this will give me 4 scenes. This will give me patch up and down, and I have the control buttons to whatever they have been set. If I press a scene button again, scene 1 will go to scene 5, scene 2 will jump to number 6, 3 to 7 and 4 to 8. So I can access all 8 scenes, but I may have to go through a lower scene. If I plan this well, it's actually a great way of working. Okay, but let's go back. I'm gonna change back to the previous mode. Go back to the menu. I'll do it with buttons this time. Back to the SY-1000. Go back to the mode select and change back to mode select 1. Then I'll press scene, and I have my layout of 8 switches back. Okay, I'll have a drink and I'll move on. Too much talking. Okay. Well, what are scenes? Well, a scene is a way to make different versions of one patch. Why would you want to do that? Well, normally when I play guitar, when I play the sound and I select a different patch, there's a little gap, and also everything that's going on. I've got a delay going on. The delay is cut off, then you have a gap, and then there's the next patch. With scenes, I can have effect spill over, and I'll have no gap. So that's the biggest advantage of using scenes. Now, how can I make a scene? Well, now we have to look a little bit into some technicalities, but I'll first make a very basic scene. What I'll actually do, I'll go to scene mode, I'll select scene 1, and I actually like the sound that I'm having right now. So I will save this scene, and you can save the scene by holding the middle button on the VC MIDI. Or I should say read the scene, and if I just press the left encoder, it's reading this scene. Right now this scene has been set. If I select scene 2, you can see scene number 1 is lighting up, and in real life this is blue, but my camera phone, I'm just using a phone camera, is making, well, it just makes it all look white. You can see the shadow right above here. That's the real color. This is blue and that's light blue. So if you look at the shadows, then you can see the colors. Because, well, cameras and LED lights, they just don't like each other. Okay, now for scene 2, I want to change something to this patch. So let's go and edit. And when you edit scenes, it's usually best to do this inside on the unit itself. You can use BTS or floorboard editor, but as soon as you start changing scenes, the screen is not updated in BTS, so you actually get a very messy thing. Okay, what I'll do here, I've got a chorus and I've got a master delay, and I'll switch those two on. Now that's a nice sound. I'll use this for scene 2. So I already have scene 2 selected. Press the middle button. It says here select scene 2. If I could change the number here as well if I wanted to, but scene 2 is fine. Again, press the left encoder, and now I have scene 2. Now if I press scene 1, you can see both blocks switching off, and now both blocks coming on. Okay, that's great. Let's do scene number 3. I'll go to scene number 3. For this one, what shall I do? Oh yeah, that's a fun thing to do. I'll go into the chorus, and this is actually FX3, and FX3 can be all sorts of things. And I'll change the type of effect. It's now a chorus. I'll say I want you to be an Ottawa. Oh, that's fun. Let's do that. And I'll switch off the reverb. And I'll do something more. I'll go into my guitars. Here, what's this guitar? I shouldn't switch it off. Instrument edit. Oh, this is it's a telly using the rear pickup. Let's change the pickup to the front pickup. Okay, and let's go to instrument number 2. That's a Les Paul, and we'll also pick up the front, select the front pickup. I think I like this scene, so I'll do the same thing I always do. I hold the middle button, and scene 3 is fine. I'll read this scene. Okay? If I now change back here, you can see the pickup is going back to whatever I had. Also on the other one, pickup is going back to the other one. For change, the pickup is changing, the effect type is changing, and the blocks are changing. Reverb off, reverb on. This is really the big advantage of scenes. You can do so much stuff because you can change several parameters, and it's all happening within the patch. And when I change patch, or when I change scene, you hear no gap. Effects are, there's effects spill over, so the effects just keep going. And the fun thing is, when I move from 1 to 3, scene 1 to scene 3, I get the difference between that. So the reverb is coming on, but the other effects are off. So whenever you go back to the scene, you will get the exact situation you had before. There are a lot of parameters you could change through scenes, and I've written this down in the manual. And you can find that over here. Here's a complete list of all the parameters you can change. The parameters that are red, because whenever I press that middle button and record a scene, it'll actually do all these parameters. So it'll do instruments, whether they're on or off, the instrument type, the normal mix switch, the alt tune, the 12-string switch, and the band switch. Of all the amp and effects, it'll do the normal switch, it'll do the state of all the blocks, but also amp solo switch, gain switch, and bright switches. They're all switched. The channel switch on the divider block is also switched. And then inside instruments, depending on the instrument you're doing, and this also works for bass mode, because I've also completely implemented all the bass mode addresses. That all works. These are the actual parameters that are switched inside every instrument. So that's quite a few, but not all parameters. There are some that I'm actually missing. So what to do if I want to switch something that is not on, or if I want to change an extra parameter. Say I want to make an alternative. Let's see, what can I do? I want to make another scene of this one. It's scene 4, and inside this one I want to change the chorus time. Let's see, I go to chorus and change the rate. Okay, how do I do this? Well, here is the parameter. Here it's fast, here it's slow. Let's turn up the effect level and turn up the depth. Now it's getting all ugly. So I want it to go from slow to fast. I want to change this rate parameter. How can I do that? There is a way to do this inside scenes, and the trick is, and this is the most advanced trick I'll explain today, is to use a normal assign for this. And there are certain assigns that using specific CC numbers that I can use for this, and these are called the scene assigns. And you can access the scene assigns by just pressing the scene button, and right here you see I've got these red, they're supposed to be red, they look a bit different on screen. I can actually switch on 8 switches and switch them off again. And if I read the display, I'm also reading the CC numbers. This one is CC 21, 22, 23, and the last one is 28. Specific CC numbers that can control a parameter. So I want to set up an assign that uses CC21 to change the rate of the chorus. I do this by pressing, and this is a great trick of the SY-1000 I learned the other day. Quickest way is you press the encoder and hold it. And that'll take me to a free slot inside the assign matrix, and already have the chorus rate available. I want it to go from 6 to about, I don't know, 70 or something. And the source will have to be CC21. So I'll have to scroll here until I get into the CCs, and I'll find number 21. And the mode, this is also very important, has to be moments. Okay, now set up this one. I need to switch it on. That's very important. Now I have chorus 1 rates. If I get out of here, I can test it by looking at the rate and pressing scene assign 1, and I can see the number here changing between 6 and 70, like I set up in the assign. Okay, now here's the trick. I'll switch on the rate. That's not a very nice sound, but it's just an example. And I'll make a new scene by pressing and holding the middle button. And this will become scene, wrong button, wrong encoder, scene number 4. Okay. Excellent. I'll go to normal scene mode. You can see the rate switching here. And if I'm here, I can see the scene assign is on. And if I'm here, I can see the scene assign is off. I implemented this because now I can have much more control over specific parameters on the SY-1000, and almost every parameter can be changed. And you have to remember there are 8 scene assigns, so there are 8 yeah, you can have sort of 8 states with them within the different, you can play with that in the scenes, but one scene assign can change several parameters. If I set another parameter that'll change, will be changed by CC21, both will change at the same time. So this is a lot of fun. Okay, now there's the next bit. I actually want to store this scene, and this is a important bit because this is a bit tricky to get it to work. The best way to store the scene is to press patch mode on the V controller and then press the right button, and I'm going to write this patch because I've changed data inside on the SY-1000 which I want to save. And when I select write and then I press write again, look at the display and it says patch saved. So this the scene data and the scene names are all saved on the VC MIDI. Okay, right. So what I actually want to do now is I can show you the next bit. I'll go to VC Edit, and if I need to open my screen here, I'll go to Device Patches. What I will do is I'll now that I've saved something, I can read patches from the V controller. And I find there is one new user 1.2 is actually a new scene, and it's in saved in the first slot, because this is something that has changed compared to previous versions. Previous versions I could only store patches for the Boss Katana. Now the memory can hold patches for either SY-1000 or SY-1000 in base mode, or for Katana. There are in total 150 slots where I can save a patch, and if I actually look here you can see that I can change patches. But one great trick is if I double click, I can change the scene name. So I can say, well, this was the normal sound for this patch, normal. Oh. Normal. This one was chorus. This one was Ottawa, and this was chorus fast. Chorus fast. The maximum number of characters is 8. Chorus. Another character here. So chorus fast. If I now write this to the VC MIDI, and it'll now update the patches. It takes a while to write all this data, because if I do it too fast it's not arriving properly. There you go. If I now go back, I can see I have my new names. No, is this not working? Oh, I'm on the wrong patch. X drive, there you go. I have to be in the proper patch. Number 1 is called normal. Oh, I did make a spelling error. Ottawa, chorus fast, and so that's very cool. I really like scenes. It's been a lot of work to implement this, but it's something I'm using all of the time. It's my favorite feature of the V controller. So it's really, really, really cool. I really like this. Okay, so much on scenes. Oh yeah, one more thing. You're able to swap if you want to change the order of patches on the SY-1000. Well, the data that's stored, the scene data that's stored on the SY-1000 has to remain in sync with the data that is stored on the SY-1000 itself, because otherwise if the two won't make sense, then you'll have a mess. To help this process, well, whenever you do some other patch operations here, the VC MIDI will follow. And again, it's wise to first go into patch mode and then do these operations. Say I want to exchange patch 1.2 with 1.3, so I'll press right and I'll go to exchange and say I want to exchange 1.2 with 1.3. Now I'll press right and look at what the display will do. Exchange, and I'll say OK, and it'll say patch is swapped. So it'll pick up this operation that I'm actually doing on the SY-1000 and operate it here as well. And right now you can see it's in position number 3, and I still have all my data. If I initialize a patch, a function that I hardly ever use, but it's possible to do so, the data will be initialized, reset on the SY-1000 as well. Plus, I can also, whenever I mess stuff up, I can always go back in here and actually need to read again because it's changed position. So I can always do stuff here as well. So I can initialize a patch here. A great function is also to export the patch. And if I press export, the data of this patch is exported, and that way I can make a backup, or I can go into file and save everything inside a VC edit. I'm not sure if you guys are able to see that, probably not, but you can make a full backup by saving all the data from the editor. So there are a lot of options here and a lot of great tricks to be used. Okay, let's go into the next bits. I'll actually swap back my patches because I've got a certain order where I expect them to be. Right. And now I didn't pick it up. Did you see that? I'm afraid it. Now I've got a mess. Okay, I need to exchange them again. See if it'll do it. Go back to number 3. Oops, I forgot one switch. And that was this one. I had to go. Yeah, it's really weird, but for some reason it's not picking it up. Now it is. Okay, now I've got X drive back in the position where I expect it to be. Let's have a look at the next bit, because quite a few people have shown interest in the polyharmonic stuff, and that is really nice as well, because the Roland VG99 used to have this great function called harmony mode. Well, it's just called harmony. And what does harmony do? Well, that's again a great trick. So I'll go into this instrument. I'll go to instrument 2 and edit it, and we'll go to the alt tune section here. Alt tune. Okay, right here. Okay, it's already working because I already said the right thing. But normally you can only have fixed intervals here. Which is nice, but not always really what I want to have. But what I made is a sort of intelligent combination of a lot of stuff, using guitar to MIDI and using the user type of alternative tuning. Within the user type, I'm actually editing data. So you see here, the first one says pitch plus 6, this is the 6th string, but when I play the second note, it's changing to plus 10, plus 9, plus 8, plus 7, which basically means these notes stay the same. Works reasonably well. The biggest problem I have is that the guitar to MIDI implementation on the Boss SY-1000 is the worst of all. VG99 works much better, GR55 works much better, GP10 works much better. SY-1000 is very finicky. You have to play pretty strong, otherwise it won't detect the note, it won't send out the data. And you won't have the results that you want. Currently, I have a it's just one thing to mention because I can't change that. Really, you have to play pretty strong. Okay. But how does this work? No, right now I've got guitar instrument 2. It is on an alternative tuning, and there's a way to set this. And actually, let's have a quick look at the manual because I try to explain there how this works. So we'll make a switch back to the manual, and I will do some scrolling and see if I can find this data. This is the actual Word document. It's not the final version yet, but it is looking good. And the manual is getting pretty large lately. Where is this? Harmony mode, there you go. Yeah. Okay, I'm actually showing all the settings that you need to do. We can check that out first actually. So let me go and change back to my screen. I'll get out of instrument editing. I'll first go to System, MIDI, and then here there is Guitar to MIDI on number 3. Okay, obviously it has to be switched on. That's the most important thing. Band thin, I put it on to make sure it's not too much data that is not being used, and the band range is 2. The basic channel is 1. So this is where you make the basic settings. Then if I go to control, these are the settings for my patch, and inside here I can also go to guitar to MIDI, and here are my guitar to MIDI settings. The mode has to be mono. In poly I won't be able to detect the strings individually. All tune has to be off because I'm actually changing the all tune, so I would be chasing my own tail if it's on. Chromatic is set to type 2. Dynamics I've put all the way up. Play feel is 3, and low velo cut, velocity cut is off. These are actually all the settings that I make, and I find these two work the best. If you use different feels, it may be that again strings are not properly detected, or when you hammer on it'll see that as a bend, but the note doesn't change, so you get a lot of wrong notes. Okay, now I actually want to control these parameters from within the patch, so I want to control harmony mode from within the patch, and to do that I am using a function that's called patch MIDI, but I'm not using it in the official way because we to properly integrate the VC MIDI and the SY-1000 I've used fixed PC messages, which basically means whatever you set here will not be sent out. But I know a few tricks. The VC MIDI is picking up this data. Okay, on the first one I can just do PC and CC messages. That's all fine. It's being ignored largely anyway. On the second one I can set a CC CC1 number and value and CC2 number and value, and right here it reads 12, 3, 13 and 18, and with CC 12 and 13 I can control the guitar tunings for instrument 2. There are more numbers. I can show them in the manual. If I go to the manual, actually here is the list. CC10 is the harmony mode for instrument 1, 11 is the interval, this is harmony mode for the second one, the interval, harmony mode for the third, and the interval. So these are the CC numbers that I'm using, and right now I'm editing instrument 2, so I'm using CC 12 and 13. Here are the numbers for the intervals, and here are the numbers for the modes, so we'll have a look at this right now. Okay, whenever CC 12 is set to 0, and Hi, actually I had a little problem there trying to get it to work, because some stuff that I've been testing suddenly wasn't working, and the reason was I connected my VC Mini in a very unnatural way in order to get audio from my guitar into OBS. But somehow when you do really weird connections, harmony mode doesn't work. So something I had to learn. So I'll pick it up here. My audio will not sound as nice as it did before, because the problem is it's, well, some messages that are being sent out are not picked up properly by, and it's probably due to hacking some sort of MIDI patch bait tool on my Mac, that some messages are not getting through there properly. So it didn't work. I now connected directly using USB, just a normal USB cable that goes from the SY-1000 here into the VC Mini, and that should help, because right now stuff is beginning to work and beginning to respond. Okay, I'll go back to control and back to patch MIDI, and I've turned up my volume, so hopefully you can hear something. Okay, right now this is mode 1. There are a couple of modes inside. We can see that in the manual if I switch. Harmony mode 1 or 0 was off. 1 is normal mode, and actually copied the numbers and the octaves you're getting here from the VG99. So this is normal 1, and the second CC, CC number 2 is set to 13, which is correct. And here I can set the octave. So let's change again, swap again to Droid Cam. So 16 is a third, 18 is a fifth. And I can go down. This is an octave down. Let's go back to the third. Okay, this is I think the key is set to E. So this is mode 1. Mode 2 is slightly different, and you can hear that here. You hear that? Okay, you may be wondering, how can I change key? Well, there's a key button right here, and if I change that to C, switches actually. So from Patch MIDI I can actually set up the intervals to do whatever I want them to do. Number 3 is a sort of creative mode. And when I set the interval to 18, which is plus 5, it even sounds better, because this is actually my favorite. But you get some funny results. But not everything sounds good here, and it's just an experiment. I really need to look into this more one day and see if there's an interest there. And when you set it to 4, you always get the favorite, my favorite one. It's a sort of space where users can ask for specific user tunings, and I could hard code them. Maybe one day, if there's a lot of interest, I could make it possible to do user harmonies, but I'm not sure how many people ever mess with that, and it's quite a lot of work to implement it in all the systems, but it may be possible if you really would like that. If it's just one harmony one, just mail it to me and I'll make sure it'll be added, so you can play with it. But this is the idea of the custom harmonies. One more thing I wanted to show you. Right now I'm in scene mode again. What happens if you disconnect the SY-1000? Well, or the VC Mini from the SY-1000. I've pulled out the USB, and right now you see the switches are not responding. If I press, really nothing happens. Again, you have to look at the shadows to see the actual color, but it's not responding. And when I plug it back in, the VC Mini will automatically pick up where it was. It'll find the proper page, or at least make an estimated guess. And right now it's responding again, and I can select scene. So that's really to show that this scene mode is all controlled from the VC Mini, and it's not something that exists outside of it. Then there's another thing, something I, in the last video I actually called it bass mode, but that's a bad word to use, a bad term, because bass mode is also the different mode. You can put the SY-1000 in guitar mode, bass mode. But the idea is that, well, I'll actually see if I can demonstrate it here. In this patch, let me see, go to instrument. Instrument 3 is a bass. And if I switch that one on, not sure if you can hear that, but you hear the sound of a bass guitar, and I'll make it a bit louder by maybe just switching off the other guitars. I'll go to manual mode and switch off these two. And as you can hear, I hope you can hear, if I play a chord, only the lowest string that I play is audible, and the rest is switched off. If I look at the bass guitar by switching to instrument 3, and I look at the levels, you see level 6 and level 5. If I play the low note, I should really look at the bass guitar. Where is it? There it is. I think it's not working. The bass guitar. You see, when I'm playing it, the level is 0, and when I play the second note, it really is changing that. You can see the levels switching. If I play a D chord, then the third string is off. So it's actively switching strings on and off. So that's a real great trick. So that's a really cool feature that I really enjoy a lot. There are a few things you have to set up. If I change to VC Edit, I'll show you what you have to do. In VC Edit, you actually are on the unit. You have to go into, well, you can either go into the menu on here, or you can actually change this from VC Edit itself in the settings. There is the MIDI Advanced menu. And over here, you have to make your settings for bass mode. It's called bass mode here, or low string priority. The MIDI channel should be the first channel, should be channel 1, because guitar to MIDI also uses channel 1. The bass mode device should be the Boss SY-1000. It's also possible on other devices. You get a full list, but obviously only devices that do guitar to MIDI can do this. But it also works on VG99, GR55 and GP10. The bass mode CC number is 15. I usually leave that unchanged. The minimum velocity is 100. You can play with this value. If it's struggling to detect, you can lower this value. And if you get false triggers, you can make it higher. But for me, 100 works. And I'm actually using the same settings that I showed before for the harmony mode, because it's really using the same thing. So that is bass mode, another great feature of the SY or of the VG99. Oh yeah, and one more thing I need to show. On the SY, you need to set up a specific number of CCs, or not CCs, of assigns. They're actually in the list here. It's instrument, here they are. Instrument 3 I'm currently using. I'll switch over here, by the way, to DroidCam, so it's a bit larger. Instrument 3, string level 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1 are switched because you only need to switch off the highest strings, not the lower ones. So the bass string is always on, the low E, and the other ones are being switched. And there's a number of assigns here that you need to set. But there's also a trick. If you go on the VC Mini, and now I'll switch again to VC Edit and Remote so you can see what I'm doing. If you let's get out of here. No, actually reading the scene now. If you hold the middle switch like we did for saving scenes, and I scroll over, I find there's also some scene operations here, by the way. I didn't explain that, but you can this one I should explain. You can rename, you can exchange, and you can clear scenes, you can clear all scenes. And here is add bass assigns. If you just press that button, it'll automatically add the assigns that you need for bass mode based on instrument 3, because I usually use instrument 3 as my bass guitar. Obviously, if you change everything instrument 3 to instrument 2, it'll work as well. But you can only, you could probably switch several instruments. But that's bass mode. Okay, there's one more thing that I noticed and I've forgotten about it. There's this option, change to all SC. I couldn't fit the full name in, but it's a change to all scenes. This is something that I found using the SY-1000 in practice, because sometimes oh, that was a switching error. Sometimes I find I've already made a lot of scenes, and then I decide to change something. Like I decide to have a different instrument. Now, as the instrument type is also saved in the scenes, you may have to update that. You will have to update all the instrument types in all the scenes, and that's a lot of work. But there's a quicker way. If I just go to an existing scene, and right now I think in all scenes, let's have a quick check. Instrument 1 is a telly, and if I keep looking everywhere, it's a telly. If I would just change the guitar type here, and then I need to go to guitar. Yeah. If I would just change it here to an LP, and I would now save the current scene, then on this scene I would have a telly or an Les Paul, but on the other ones I still have the telly. Now, if I now do the trick and change this one also to an LP, press the middle button, and I select change to all scenes, press OK, and now we're done. Now everywhere the guitar has turned into an LP. So that's just a very quick way to make changes. I don't like this guitar any better. I think I like the telly better, so let's change it back. And I can quickly do that by doing change to all scenes. So there you go. Now another thing, as you notice, the bass sound is off here and on here. But say I want to be able to switch on the bass sound without the independent of which scene I'm in. Well, if something is the same in all scenes, it'll never be updated. So if I just switch off, going back here, switch off that bass sound, and then go back and save this in scene 1. Now it's off, and if no matter what I choose, there's no bass sound. If I then go here, switch on the bass, now it'll be on in all the scenes, because when you switch scenes, only the parameters that are different between two scenes will be updated. And that sort of brings me to the end of this demonstration. You can find all the data and a lot more in the manual. There's so much stuff that the V controller will do. The manual is getting more and more information. Also, all the other devices it will support are here. So much stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you soon. If you're interested in getting a VC Mini, I do from time to time I do some batches where I make a couple of them. So you can get on a wait list. Send me an email at 68 Sound Control, and I will sort you out and see if I can build one. And there's some more developments going on. If you check out vguitarforums.com, I've got a whole section there on the V controller. There may be some exciting other versions coming, but that'll take time. And for me, it's just a hobby project. I'll work on it when I have time. And if I don't feel like doing anything, I'll do nothing. I'm not a company. It's just a hobby thing. But usually I spend more time on it anyway than I really want to. I hope this helps. Be safe, have fun, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.